So then I start filming. My goal is to be done by tomorrow. So I welcome everybody to the July meeting, or the meeting board on transportation, and it's a longer committee meeting. And I want to welcome, we have Jess Tolman, my co-chair, and Zach Ballmer, who is our district manager. Entering soon, we're going to have Mitch, and we have one person over for us, so we're in good shape. And with Mitch here, I will introduce the first speaker. Hey, Carol, you can speak from anywhere you want, but the owls, where the camera, the microphones are.
Great.
You'll find it easier to kind of stay put the work.
And does it make sense to go around the room and introduce everybody, or do I just do Jesse and I?
Would like to introduce themselves?
Yeah, that's okay. I'll take a second.
Do you want to know what's in the?
I'm a committee member.
Yeah.
I'm a member of this committee.
That explains a lot.
What would you like to know about us?
Just names and I guess I'd just be helpful in case he's here, but
What do you do?
Sure.
That's so
Can
much.
you guys talk just a little bit louder or talking to the owls? It's hard to hear.
Justine.
Yes, remember me? I'm here online.
Mimi Flynn, I used to live across the street and now I just work in the district. I'm at One York Plaza. But I've worked down here for like 12 years or something.
My name is Eric Yu. I live and work in CD1. I reside in the Seaport District.
Mitchell Froden, I live in the area. Cody Lyon, and I live in Carrollton, Brooklyn, but I work at the UCC for the past 10 years. I'm working on behalf of
I'm Carrie Parker Davidson. I live in Tribeca for 30 plus years and I'm a public member, so not a full member.
But she's the mainstay of Dwayne Park.
I've been caretaker of Friends of Dwayne Park, the garden at Dwayne Park for over 30 years.
It's Sharon, New York City DOT. I work with meeting boards on so special.
good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you again. Long time.
Yeah, I'm Betty Kay, chair of the committee, and I live in Battery Park City. I'm retired, so I don't wear any. So I'm Jess, but
Jess. Park, I live in Tribeca now. Works. Good time.
Zach Ballmer, district manager. I cannot vote.
Justine, I'll let you introduce yourself online.
Thank you so much. Hi, Justine Kucha. Live in Battery Park City, member of the board, and I'm online because I was exposed to COVID. So thank you. And Zach, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. I'm Jessie Lang. I'm the Housing and Transportation Policy Analyst on Team B.
And hi, everybody, I'm Chris. I'm the policy director, advisor of the borough president. Honestly, it depends on who's asking. I live in Brooklyn, so awesome. No one's gonna hold me out against it with hope. So they do for me as well. And very much appreciate the opportunity to talk. I know that residential parking came up in borough board at one point, came up in a general meeting for SB1 at one point, so very much appreciate the opportunity to talk through all that. And we are super early in what we think a potentially good idea of Manhattan City, but we are at the 3-yard line and hopefully we'll eventually get to those side of Brooklyn. Very, very complicated, nuanced concepts. We have to get a lot of people to partner with us to happen. I'll start with just kind of like the broad strokes of the borough presidents we're talking about. And then honestly, the thing that's probably the most helpful is getting a sense of like suggestions, concerns, feedback that like we can start incorporating way before legislation is really worked on, way before legislation is introduced. from the state. And so if that works for everyone, we kind of just touch the big high level stuff and then dive into that. Any questions?
Can I interrupt 1 second? Zach, could you put Pat Moore over into the panelist section? And I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Thank you. Sorry, that was it.
No, it's great. When Mark was in New York City Council, he introduced legislation for residential parking above 60th Street. That legislation sort of followed him as borough president, and was carried by Carmen Rosa last session and is again this session. And it's a concept that he has been interested in, hasn't pushed super hard, but has been interested in for some time. So we kind of kept our hands around it and figuring out what might work in the future. I know I'm not supposed to talk about congestion pricing, but congestion pricing became a real reason for us to pay more attention to it. Because of the potential for, particularly around transit areas north of 60th Street, for cars to be left, particularly from out of state and out of the city, in communities that have access to transportation downtown. And so we started thinking more and more about what kind of legislation we actually potentially do in mitigating those impacts. And we started noticing the proliferation city streets of fraudulent, fake, and obscure license plates near city streets. And realized that potentially a residential parking permit program could be used as one of the many tools required to start really making a dent in what is fraudulent registration.
Sorry, we can't hear.
Is this helpful? Closer to it?
It's a little bit better, closer up. I'm sorry. It just says you're mumbled. And you're Chris, right? That's how
Hey.
bad it is. I couldn't catch your name.
Yeah, no, I have a New England accent, so I chew on everything. So, forgive me. I'll try to speak up. So those two things together made this much more compelling concept for us to start thinking about much more aggressively in the borough president's office. Now, congestion pricing is a giant question mark. Some of the, impetus for us working on that is now a little on hold while we figure out what the hell's going on upstate. But the concept itself is still one that we're still interested in, particularly on the enforcement side of fraudulent license plates and obscure license plates. There are a couple of things just very broadly that we're interested in, and a lot of things we have to solve for the residential parking permit program. The big things, we need state authorization. DOT will not and does not have the ability to implement a program without council legislation authorizing it and without state legislation authorizing it. We don't have that legislation. There's been, for years talk about it in Albany, including there being sort of a head fake budget proposal in the budget 2023. But this is still a thing that, there is not a lot of traction on upstate. That is a huge, problem. It is a huge question mark on the future of a residential parking program down here in New York City. We're gonna put that aside for now, because that is something we'll have to deal with. And it's more of a next steps, whereas the future will like component there. If we are to assume that we do get that authorization, then there are a lot of question marks down here. Questions about how much it would cost, how many permits would be available. Is it a blanket program for the entire city, or do you allow for each community district to opt in or opt out? Any cost associated, does that give drivers the sense that like they are now entitled to the curb? How often do you have to renew a permit? Does that permit allow you to go to any other neighborhood, or is it neighborhood specific? All these are questions we don't have answers to yet. But there are questions that we are starting to think through and try to figure out a way that if we are able to get state authorization, we can really start thinking through what a local program would look like. When Mark talks about it now, we really try to emphasize that there is no guarantee to the curb in a residential parking program. That is, for spots that are there now, DOT is hard at work trying to make the streets safer. That sometimes means reducing the number of spots that are available on the curb. That will continue. It means that there might be a neighborhood where there are more permit holders than spots. That will continue. There's also, Mark talks about it, a real need to be very, very hypersensitive to the differences of each community district. I don't think it's surprising anyone here that community district 1 is much different than community district 12. Or 7, or 11, et cetera. That's true in every borough. And so we're gonna have to really figure out what a potential program would look like there. But the opportunities are pretty exciting for us as well. If we are able to figure out all those questions, it becomes a fairly compelling enforcement tool for illegal use of the curb. It becomes a pretty interesting tool for us to really deal with the fact that we have 2 million free parking spots on the street now. And is there a way to actually better use that curb space and better allocate funds to then improve that curb space in the future? And we think that this is not going to be a panacea for everything. It certainly does not replace congestion pricing. It would be a totally different ballgame, but it is a compelling thing that we're exploring. That's as far as we got. And I'll pause there in case there are questions.
Would there be a limit on the amount of permits?
I think it's a great question. We have 2 million parking spots. We have, 8.6 million New Yorkers, 22% of whom own a car. Let's say 65% of those people actually decide to get a permit. We're looking at that's 1.3 million New Yorkers or so. I think that would probably be the ballpark we're talking here, but also that analysis can be totally wrong, and it might be that because a number of community districts decide we don't want to participate, that would reduce the program entirely. I think that's an open question.
I think that also, stuff that, different community districts might want to carve out a different number of actual parking spots to have be reserved for residential parking permit uses only, that might also impact kind of the availability, and it might look a little bit different from one community district to the next. But I think that those are all questions that we want to answer, is some cities that have done residential parking permit programs before, don't or maybe do limit the number of available permits. But since we're so early in this process, this is a really good time for us to get that feedback on what different stakeholders think would be important.
And sorry, just follow up. And say there are 2 million parking spaces in New York City. Would they all be devoted to residential parking, or would there be some left for?
No, I think it's pretty fundamentally, there's gonna have to be a distinction between certain parts of town that are more commercial, where there is free parking, free access to the street, that isn't metered parking in some way, whether dynamic or not. There's gonna be a certain number that actually doesn't make sense for it to be residential parking. But that probably will continue. Other places where it makes a lot of sense for it to be residential. My block in Brooklyn, it's entirely residential block. If you walked it right now, probably 15% of the cars by the naked eye have either an illegal or obstructed license plate. They're from out of state, which is also a problem. But
what would this do about that though? Because
well, if you had a residential parking permit program, you'd have to show that you reside in New York City. And if you reside in New York, but live here by all intents and purposes, but your car is registered in Pennsylvania, that's insurance fraud.
But if I'm walking, I'm thinking of the street division I live on, which is just all illegal placards and obscure license plates.
Placards is a different thing, but yeah.
But if I were to walk out and it was devoted to residential parking and I saw a Pennsylvania license plate, I still have to get the NYPD to do something about it, right?
Yep.
I think the idea also is that, if your car, like your parking permit would be tied to your vehicle, it wouldn't be something you carry around with the then vehicle that you bought. It would say, you know, that this is a residential parking permit for this car, which is registered in New York State at this person's address where they live. And that's what makes them eligible to get a permit. And so if you were to see a car that was registered out of state, then that would kind of be an automatic flag and would probably, we think would make it easier to enforce because it would be so much easier to have a glance say, like, I know that this is not 2 days on right here.
Your point about PD is extraordinarily relative. It is a problem.
Yeah, where I was going.
Yep, 100%. And I don't have a solution to it yet. There's a lot of culture change that has happened on placards, on street enforcement, on speed, all sorts of things. We have to deal with that. I think that love to reserve that for another conversation another day, but it's a problem.
Okay, Eric?
Yeah, with this, residential parking permit, you know, I know you, the whole concept, you're getting ideas for it, but this will create more bureaucracy and fees in order to live, work, and do business in New York City. It's just gonna create more obstacles to living, make life more expensive, and add confusion, especially if you have people who don't live in New York City, want to visit you. If you want to go to a different area of New York City, it just makes life more complicated. That's all.
Mimi and Bertie.
So what, to Eric's point, would it prevent people from wanting to drive into the city that are visiting from, you know, people in the rest of the country really like to do road trips and sometimes they wander into the city. Would that prevent a certain level of tourism? And if so, like, could we quantify that? But mostly like what I'm curious about is, will it encourage future residents to bring their cars with them? Because there's residential.
Interesting. Second question, I don't know. That's something definitely we have to think through a little bit. No, I think that as we are doing everything else in the city to, for example, try to deal with mandatory parking requirements in the zoning text to ensure that there's enough pedestrian space on the streetscape, I think we're doing a good job if congestion pricing is gonna happen. Another example, we're trying to encourage people to not rely on a private car to get around the city. This isn't gonna move the needle one way or another, I don't think too much. And whether or not someone chooses to own a vehicle and keep one here and if they're gonna do it, they're probably gonna do it. If they're not gonna do it, they're not gonna do it. I do think though, that like, there is gonna be a certain question about it. There's a stop sign in New Jersey driving in and parking in a specific neighborhood. It's gonna be one of the questions we have to figure out. I hope is that, you know, the cost of a garage for a day or for however long isn't gonna be what stops someone from going to work trip to New York. And I don't think there's a world where it's gonna be every single parking spot in New York City is gonna be a residential spot, you know, to the point before. There are a lot of ways in which we are actually trying to address the free curb space. DOT is doing a lot of work on dynamic parking. Like programs to actually ensure that if you get a spot, you're gonna pay for it because it's public space and that's fine. I think there's a place for all of it. But the question is good. Figure that out.
Yeah, Bertie?
I guess my question touches on what I was talking about as well, but also like, so the overarching motivation is to, if I'm understanding, one of the motivations is to crack down on
Paul, can you speak louder? I can't hear you.
I was asking if, like, one of the overarching motivations of this is to crack down on illegal license plates. But is it also, I mean, is it another overarching motivation to cut down on congestion? Because, as you said, and as Eric said, and as others have said, he said, it would maybe frustrate folks from driving over to maybe instead, which seems to transit. Is that?
It's very possible. I think that we're at the stage now where we haven't gotten to the point where we're ready to do a traffic analysis.
Right.
So we haven't figured out, does it mean we lose tourism coming into the city, or does it mean people are less likely to drive from the Upper West Side to Flushing?
Right.
We haven't gotten to that stage. I think it's possible that both might happen a little bit. It's also possible that neither. But I think it's work that we plan to do and we have to do, if this is actually to the point where someone's asking DOT to actually figure out how to do this program.
So just quick follow-up, is there any sort of not official polling, but, sense of, what folks feel this way, as far as?
But residential parking,
Yeah.
I can only share the anecdotal feedback we get. And if someone here wants to pay for polling, I'm interested. Since announcing this is one of the things that Mark hears the most about when he travels Manhattan. And it's overwhelmingly positive. That is a, self-selecting group of people, though. Or, folks who are excited about it will be more likely to bring it up to him. And there's gonna certainly have to be a very nuanced approach to what it looks like. To make sure that it makes sense for every neighborhood. And so even the anecdotal information is, you can only take so much. But if you want to pay for home, I'm interested.
I'll shuffle out the
All
guy.
right, sounds good. I don't take cash, but no other, anyway.
Justine,
Thank you so much, Betty. Okay, so question one is, well, actually, comment one is I could see neighborhoods like Inwood, Washington Heights, Harlem, and if in fact congestion pricing goes into effect, areas on either side of congestion pricing benefiting from something like this, because you really do want to put the commuter traffic out or parkers out of their neighborhood. So that said, that's goes to your question is, should it be neighborhood specific? Yeah, I think yes, it should be. If you're going to do it, there's going to be neighborhoods where it's really well and welcomed, because transit, public transit is pretty accessible at all these places, and you really don't need to get there with a car, and certainly you don't want the commuters parking and taking up people's spaces. That said, I'm really concerned about the fact, and this is the question, the fact that you're going to have more people with cars, residents looking to park their cars, than you are going to have parking spaces. How in goodness gracious name are you going to charge me to park my car when I can't park my car? You can't do that. So I guess that way would be a lottery system, and people just get parking every year or whatever, or not. I mean, that I guess would go to the encouragement of not having a car, because you don't know if you're going to get parking or not, or know if you're going to pay for it. But that would be one thing, is paying for it for residential parking and then not being guaranteed a space. Not necessarily a space in front of my house, but a space would be a big problem. And then a comment. Well, go ahead, answer, and then sorry, my dogs. Then I have a comment, but go ahead, answer. I'm going to put myself on mute.
No, I appreciate the Uptown comment. I think that's right. But your point that any way this gets cut, there's a potential for someone to hold a permit and not be able to find a spot is real. And we don't have a solution to that, not yet. It is gonna
But
be,
if you-
that is gonna be the big debate for whatever it costs. It's gonna be the debate for whether the program should exist in the first place. It is the reason DOT does not want to do it. At least in every conversation I've had with DOT. So that's a very, very difficult thing we haven't figured out yet. If you have a way of figuring it out for us, I'm pumped.
No,
but
I mean,
it's definitely something we have to figure out.
the only way to do is limit the number of permits you give out. And then those people who get the permit are guaranteed a space, and anybody who doesn't have a permit parks in a lot or doesn't have a car, or because there will be no place to park. So there's that. The other thing is congestion, I'm sorry, tagged parking, placard parking, thank you. Placard parking, they're gonna take all the spots. Permit, no permit, and then what?
Yeah, so the placard component of this is a huge problem. And I don't have a solution for it. I don't think we've not come up with anything in the office quite yet. The majority of the placards that are out there are not actually placards, they're fake. And we're back to the MIPD, pointing maybe towards us. Like, we have to figure out the culture thing here, both what is allowing for even a fake placard to be a substitute for something that's real. And also for the lack of enforcement for when there is a fake one. And then overall, we had have a long conversation with City Hall about the number of placards that are real and available. Like, that's all real. We have to solve for. We also have precinct problem, what's going on underneath sidewalk. We have issues in each firehouse. Like, it is a mess. This is a district that sees that particularly because of the number of city agencies and amount of agency parking. That's certainly an issue. And we're having to work through that. I don't
Yeah.
disagree with that.
And I would beg you figure it out before you implement.
Oh, I mean, without a doubt, like, we are so far from that, but 100% right. I think it's gonna be, if we get state authorization, and if we get a council bill that actually makes sense, that everyone's comfortable with, even get to the realm of thinking about passing, then it's gonna be about talking to DOT about what's feasible and possible, and how to get the city to start being a better actor themselves. And that's all gonna happen before anything real happens.
Are there other jurisdictions that have implemented this and, there's.
In New York City, there are a number of bills in the council, all of which were from the previous speakership.
I mean, if there are other cities that have done residential parking.
Yeah, to varying degrees of success or failure. I'll rattle off just a couple off the top of my head, but Philly, Chicago, Los Angeles, as examples. Boston has one. I don't count Boston. Boston's not a city. It's more just a pain in the ass. But like, these are all places that have done a version of a parking permit program and have obviously dense, urban environment. I think there are lessons to learn on what to do and also what not to do in each one of those situations.
And there are other cities in New York that also
That's what you were saying.
systems as well, like Albany has one, and New Rochelle, and there's other cities across the state, and similar to what we would have to do, they do need to get state authorization to actually implement those programs first, but yeah, I think we found in our research that it's actually harder to find a city that, at least for like medium to larger size cities, it's harder to find a city that doesn't have it than one that does, but the programs, look, they vary widely between one city to the next as to how they're designed. And we do think that it would be important for a program for New York City to meet the needs of New York City that, may differ from other cities that form.
If anyone has spoken has understood, I've lived with it for 35 years. I have lots to say about it. Yeah, Carrie,
There's a couple questions. So I'd like to know how the 2 million parking spaces are defined, like what makes up that inventory? Those are the
Those are free parking spaces, an approximation.
free curb space,
Free curb space in New York City right now.
not including dining sheds, not including, that's,
That's right.
all of that is already factored in.
It's an estimate, and I think that estimate is maybe a couple of years old, so there might be a little bit of variation, and I see variation again, but that's really kind of the overall estimate, and it's also based on how much space is available for like free alternate side parking and availability, but as obviously cars are also different lengths and take up different amounts of space, so that's really kind of like a best estimate based on the average length of a car and space that's available, but understanding that there's, not even just from one year to the next, but there's also variability if like a street is being resurfaced, it's being closed for one reason or another. But again, the 2 million, I think is a good.
I just wanted to understand and make sure that.
I think, yeah, and I think if this were to be implemented, we, I'm sure that the DOT would also need to do updated assessments and, you know, space.
Take certain things out of the inventory and all of that. Okay, so I just wanted to understand that. And then, I agree with, I think it was Justine's comment that piggybacking on congestion pricing to alleviate the concerns of people parking outside of the business district is an important one. And as a goal of the program.
You can imagine how we felt when all of a sudden congestion pricing was.
I thought we should opt in. I thought we should just allow people to opt in and maybe enough people would opt in to, I don't know. Anyway, it was a Pollyanna idea. The other, I do agree with Eric though, that all of the time and money and energy put into a permit parking program might be better spent on enforcement of existing programs. One of the things, I mean, I'm still learning a lot here, but enforcement has been brought up a couple of times. If we're not going to enforce what we already have, what's the point of creating a whole other layer that's not going to have enforcement? So without teeth, I think it doesn't help. And then if it did go forward, one of the things that we could consider is a term limit that you know in advance that if you get a residential parking permit, you only get it for 2 years. And then after that, it's freed up for somebody else. And you've got to wait another 2-year term before you're eligible, so that then we can prevent people from, you know, adopting car culture. We were trying to move away from car culture, some of us. But that might be a nice way to give people notice. That way we don't have the surprise function of thinking you're guaranteed a spot or guaranteed a spot for a long time. I think notice will go a long way for people who need to plan
That's all.
economic.
Yeah, that's all good feedback.
It's that way to give it to him.
I'm comfortable. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Eric, and then there's a million other things, but, since it seems to have something that's so far away, from the land. Like in so many small towns, it's definitely appropriate. Just one thing that I was just letting Eric that it's, I know on Ward Street, the garage, I mean, I don't have a car, but I know people that come down bid, it's $90 a day. More supply and demand, I think somebody else brought that up. Take away even more spots, even where they can't even pay $15 for a couple of dollars for meter. The garage, it's,
Yeah.
you know, before you can do this, you have to solve the pocket problem, which hasn't been solved in the last 30 or 40 years. But until that gets solved, none of this is gonna work. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
The time limited residential permits, I just don't know what you think people would do with the car after 2 years.
But you may choose not to buy a car or bring a car if you know that you're parking, if you're working out the math, the economics of the cost of owning that car, you're factoring in your parking, right? And if you don't have a permit, you're trying to factor in the alternate side of the street ticketing economics, or the parking in a garage economics, or how you're gonna move your car around the city economics. If you've got a permit, that economics is clear for 2 years, but then you're back trying to scamper around. That may deter you from choosing to own a car in the city in the first place.
Did that?
Maybe do it, have the term, I'm sticking my 2 cents in out of line, I'm sorry, but maybe do the term for what a normal leasing of a car is. Is it 3 years? I don't lease cars, I don't know. But
It's 3 years. Yeah,
Okay, that makes
it's
sense.
like it just seems really blind to like the purposes of people having cars. Some people have cars because they have ill parents in Connecticut or New Jersey or whatever and work and live in the city. Or they have cars because they moved here with one and decided to keep it. I parked my car on one side of the street or the other for years until I finally just bought a parking spot. And I there's a lot of different reasons to have a car. Like, the reason I had a car is because I rock climb and I wanted to be able to go rock climbing in dunks. You just get out of the city, so I'm just living somewhere where it's easier to do that. And so I wouldn't even stay in the city if I couldn't.
Right, that's,
I was- City and they've had a car their whole life.
excuse me, Brendan?
Sorry I came in late, so some of these might have been answered. One, so I used to live in Boston, had a neighborhood car. I thought it was fine and great. The only obstacles I ran into is when I first moved there. Like, you know, it takes time to get your ID and get all those things set up. And so I got plenty of tickets, just because of that. So as a FYI, you know, probably already aware of that. The other question, the actual question I have is like, how would the neighborhoods kind of be defined? And is there potential for it to be, like, include multiple neighborhoods, so to speak? So like, could it be a Tribeca and Soho, parks or because that's something I think they did in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, like more like a regional rather than community district thing. I think it's a great idea. I think it's something that's worth thinking through.
Yeah.
But the first people I would ask would be DOT, you know, and to say essentially like, is this feasible? Does this work? But I think your point's taken, but when you're in a car and crossing from Tribeca to Solo isn't exactly like a trek,
Right.
you know, and so like, yeah.
I mean, I would hate the days I had to do that, but like,
Yeah.
it's all, but that's like to your point.
But it's also it happens, you know, like all of a sudden you find yourself somewhere else. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of thing needs to get figured out. We're not at a stage where we're trying to solve those things, you know, we're trying to identify things.
The other thing I will add is, I don't know if this is because we had that neighborhood restriction, but like when we moved, you actually had to go get a permit for the movers. And you had to like post that within a certain amount of days, and like block off where the truck is going to be. Because of these open parking spots. So that's something else to add, because of course, everybody's moving every day, all day. And so you just need to be aware of that, and you would get a ticket and towed if you were in that spot. But then also if you didn't take down the things, I would get a ticket, with vendors about time. It's interesting.
That's good to know.
But I'm generally a fan. I moved here, I was kind of surprised that that wasn't a thing yet, so, but that's just my naivety.
Well, I guess I have kind of a mixed bag on this one. I really hated it when I lived in Chicago. I was there when they initially started it and built it up, so I've had 35 years of experiences from very, very points of view. Finally living in a place that was populous enough downtown, they don't allow it because it's just ridiculous. It's very much a commercial space, a lot of tourists, but they don't. So it's not like all neighborhoods qualify. And I would say our district seems like one of the least likely ones qualify. Because we are so tourist dependent, we are so employer dependent. We have such huge buildings on the same block. Obviously, all those people with cars couldn't possibly fit on that one block. So we're way oversubscribed. But the realities that we had was, one, in Chicago, you could get an unlimited number of visitor stickers. But people who lived there absolutely hated it, but like, too bad, they had the same problem as everybody else. But if you were having a significant other or somebody was coming to pick you up to do something, they had to have somewhere to park. You have doormen, other people who work in the building. Are you saying people who own businesses or work in businesses can't park there because they don't live there? On the other hand, we couldn't go to any other district because we didn't have their stickers. We had our stickers. So there's no moving between districts, which at first really irritated me. It happened to be that I was a student and I had a boyfriend in an area with a sticker, one of the first ones set up in Chicago. Turned out just fine because I went to school just a couple blocks away and I got a paid spot there because I needed one. So I didn't need to park. But it was very annoying that I couldn't go to pick somebody up and he couldn't have anybody visit him. And only if he lived and owned a car could he use the space, which is very unrealistic. What about all the visitors? What about all the work food? If somebody writes, and for while I was a traveling therapist, I couldn't go into some of these districts. I know at one time my son was competing at something at a high school level, and they were being held at a state university that happened to be in the city of Chicago. They had a residential sticker program, so nobody was allowed to park there, including the students of that university, because they weren't recognized as residents, even though they lived in the dormitories. Not them, not their family members. We really look carefully at all the people who have been excluded or not excluded. It came down to who really owns the streets. I was paying a lot of taxes in Chicago. When you talk about the northern part of Manhattan, you're talking about people with out-of-state plates. What about all the New York City residents paying New York City taxes who can't park on a New York City street? Those are my way bigger concerns. But whether you have a residential parking place or not, and they really are just a hunting license. They're nothing more than, and they can't be more than that. Because as soon as they're more than that, we're actually marking a space and giving it a number to that person. That's ridiculous. You can't do that. You're just promoting long-term storage and vehicle in a particular space, which doesn't work. In Chicago, they created corridors. I looked at it recently. They've created corridors that are commercial corridors. And so no residential parking permits are allowed. And in fact, now a lot of their residential parking permits are not down to contiguous streets. They're broken up and kind of scattered around. So not only the hunting, but not even hunting necessarily that close to your house. So they had to do that because of the rights of the people to protect it. Did it get nasty? Oh, in my early days, it got really nasty. Because one of the original places that started it, they were really vehement. They had some single family homes. Anybody who parked near their house, they put all kinds of furniture in the street to block it so that no one would use it during the days. It would be available when they came home at night. If you moved the things and parked, it would ice down your car. So you couldn't use it. It would vandalize cars. I mean, there were street fights all the time. Like people who are just annoyed. What do you mean I can't park here because it's your space? It's a city space. And I have a legitimate reason as a taxpayer of Chicago to be in this particular neighborhood at this moment. So there are a lot of things to work out, and I know that my neighborhood in particular, placards fill up the whole neighborhood. There really nobody in my building or the others near me counts on parking at schools. Or the doorman did. And they really trade off with each other. When one arrives, the other person moves and gives them their space. Which is exactly what the placards do. So it's no different. They've learned from them. But nevertheless, I do know they park. I know it's difficult, but that's why they're able to do it. They trade off and block a space. So do consider your visitors. Do consider the essential people like the air conditioner repair person. Where are they going to go?
I will say that what it led to is more usage of public transportation. Either because I didn't want to move my car and I knew I was going to a neighborhood that I couldn't park in. So I might as well use public transportation and vice versa for people to come. But yeah, it's definitely heard. You have to take in many considerations.
And that's true in Chicago too. In fact, in most places, there is no street parking that's free. So that also cushioned it a bit because nobody got free parking.
And Betty, if I could say something when it's my turn.
But please, just do.
Oh, thank you. No, I just wanted to add 2 cents in about Boston. So I've been up there. My daughter's in college up there and has been there for the past 5 years plus. No car. She has no car, but she's got friends who have cars in Boston, and they have to do the residential permitting because they're living, in the city of Boston, not in the dorm. And they are fine with it in their neighborhood, as you said, Brandon. But I notice that when I come to visit, there are places I will not go. For example, North End in Boston, because it is impossible to park there. You can't park on the street because you don't have a residential permit, and the parking lots are always full. So it's a nightmare scenario. So personally, I don't go there. I know my daughter doesn't go there just because the public transportation to get there without a car is no good. apparently. I mean, that poor girl goes every place by bus, because they don't really have subways, or they do, but they don't. So, she manages without a car and she does just fine. But, I don't think, because I asked her about this and she said her friends with cars don't like the residential parking permit scenario. Because it doesn't guarantee them a space, as you said, or it doesn't guarantee them a space close to where they live. So if you're looking for something that's safe and a place to put your car in a residential neighborhood, and there's no parking lots, I mean, that's the good news about Manhattan. You've got lots of parking garages, and you've got public transportation, so you do have alternatives. But in places where you don't, and I don't know what the deal is up, for example, I'm looking at this article we've connected to, up in Inwood, Washington Heights, and Harlem. I don't know how frequent the parking garages are. So those are things to consider. Are you killing commerce? You're killing people coming in, like Mimi said, where tourists are not going to want to come in and spend the extra $100 a day for parking, because that's what it costs if you're just coming in, especially in the tourist districts like Times Square for plays, stuff like that. It's a lot. Thank you.
It sounds like everyone's, hands. But I thank you for putting.
I was just thinking out loud. No, like, I mean, honestly, this may sound totally simplistic and silly, but, the whole idea of monetization of all of this free space, which takes up, I believe, 17 square miles, New York City space. It's like we loop around the world, free parking. Perhaps some sort of city resident parking, where, not by neighborhood, but, if you're looking to crack down on illegal tags or, something more broad. I don't know. I mean, that's just a thought.
But I think it's a good thought. Again, we still have to balance that every district is also different.
Right.
We have to figure out, I guess, thread this needle. It's also possible that it's not a threadable needle. And then we'll be back to the drawing board trying to figure this out.
Well, it's a parking comment on Carol Doris. It's like, people are just like, it's wild, these really calm people suddenly, it all comes out. Like, people looking for their spaces. So, I mean, I've surveyed, formally, neighbors and whatnot about residential parking. Like, hell yes, like, we're sort of like, it's not here.
It does come back to the details.
Yeah, and I have one last point that I forgot. I don't think drivers, owning a car shouldn't give you special privilege over everybody else in the neighborhood. So I still also like the idea of the special benefit district, where it's a portion of the money that is paid for those permits goes to that district to take care of issues, repairing the park, repairing streets, doing things that there's some benefit to the public good in that area. Otherwise, it looks too much like owning a car is, you've purchased a ticket to getting privileges that nobody else is allowed to have. And I think that's the wrong message to send.
Would these not be paid permits? They would be paid? Okay.
They're pretty token in most places.
Roughly, I don't have a car, but like, how much do other cities charge?
It varies incredibly widely. Some are as low as like $30 a year. Some are as much as like $5, $4 a year. So it really,
You know, it's pretty token. Even Chicago, I was shocked to see it's the same price that it was 40 years ago. It's like $30 for the year, and then it's $1 for each daily sticker that you get to give friends and prepare people and others.
One of the, is free parking, free street parking is sort of a relatively new thing, like from the 1950s. Onward, as far as, well, I mean, yeah, free is a new thing. Every neighborhood has free parking, there's less free parking than there used to be in fifties, sixties, forties, fifties.
So in the fifties, you couldn't park.
That is not true.
It is true. Right now.
No, not, I mean, I grew up in the Bronx, there was a parking all around, it was maybe one day a week, you're telling me something I lived.
I was in Brooklyn,
Okay, and there was no parking.
In the forties?
no, in the fifties.
Oh,
It changed in the early fifties.
And then there was something, if you lived in neighborhoods, there was organized free parking. There's just less now. There was organized free parking in every neighborhood that I was in, my friends lived in. I mean, I was a kid, but I was driving.
In the fifties.
Wait, do you mean ultimate size street parking came in the fifties?
No parking at night.
Parking every night, starting the car. Not true. My father had his car around, like, we didn't change it every night. That's not true, baby.
I'll put it from New York Times, so.
Well,
I remember as a child, my father would complain about the fifties. I was too young in the fifties to.
well,
did he have a car? What did he do with his car?
there was cars along the street, we used to play in the street, and we would, you know, like a stickball, punch ball, whatever, and there was cars parked on both sides of the street. They didn't-
Let's reel this back in.
No, I'm just because. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just, outside.
I mean, that's interesting. Robert knows this more than all of us.
That's why it changed.
Suggest some reading on the ancient history of free parking.
I don't need to read, right?
This could be ancient history, since childhood around here.
You know what? Okay. Anyway, we got this. Anything else?
Unless you have any questions, you'd like to.
No, the only thing I'll say is, if we get to a point where all of a sudden Albany seems interested, you all will be the first to know. If at that point Albany's interested and we need to start answering some of these questions, we'll need your help with DOT to get like a sense of what those questions are and answers to them. Our friends at DOT. And then we'll also, you know, we've brought up placards a bunch of times. It is definitely something we're working on and trying to figure out. If we want to spend a couple hours, you know, doing that this summer, I'm game. We'd love to.
Is there something we could do to help?
It was congestion pricing going to address that at all?
Placards?
Consider, because they would have to pay fee.
Right.
And they, like the little chart on the study showed that if we got rid of placards, we would not have congestion or as much pollution.
Yep.
And so it just seemed like doing congestion pricing was going to charge the people with placards.
Yeah, but not for. So the big problem with congestion pricing was if you could travel within the zone without being charged. That's one of the reasons why the toll is actually so high. Because you only get charged once, that was for leaving, not for coming in, not for travel within. So if you had a placard or you had a vest you could put on the thing, you could leave it there and drive wherever you want to go. So, and you never see a charge. And never pay for it.
So understanding who's commuting with their placard would be important. Interesting.
Well, let me know when you're running a seminar on it.
That's for somebody smarter. Anyway, thanks everybody. We appreciate it.
Thanks for Chris.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, we're just downstairs if anyone wants to hang out.
Yeah, just come down to the 19th floor. Have a good night.
It's hard.
Well, thank you all for input. It's kind of unusual for us to get in on the early stages, so wanted to encourage that, and I know I had some questions from people who were interested in the topic, knowing more about the topic. But let's move through. We have a relatively short agenda, depending on, say, the second one is looking at, there was a letter written by joint CVs for causing the congestion as listing the costs. Did everyone get to read the letter, or do people want to take a look at it? I need a response.
I read it, but let's look at it too, please.
Do you have a printout of it, perhaps? Or no? I don't, but it's in the readout. It's actually a pretty straightforward letter. And it is currently, well, by last month, it was signed by 2, 4, 5, 6, and 2. 3 put it on the permanent suspension, but did not act on it. And 1, ours was delayed until now, so that's a good.
And this is, going at just towards 1 through 6, which make up the
Just
70%.
to be fair.
So, we're the last app.
And so it's very straightforward because no changes can be made. Let's say 4 community boards have signed it, so it's locked in. We don't need to have any discussions whatsoever about changing it or nuancing it or keep this fairly brief.
Why wouldn't we want to change it?
You can't change.
I mean, if you could just stop it, then its tracks,
I mean,
you'd be able to change it.
I think the idea with this letter was to be high level. Because,
Well, it's already been released.
what, the letter?
Right.
Stephen, for support or not support, correct, Eddie? Basically, for support or not support, like,
It's going to be the vote.
yes, okay.
And then, is there anything else that you want to do? Will be there, which may address kind of what you're going to bring up. But otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward, fine, don't sign. What's your recommendation?
We didn't support suggestion pricing before, so I don't know how to put it down.
Yeah,
Fine.
if I'm allowed to speak when I am, just tell me.
Yeah, unless people are reading, I mean, I don't care if people speak.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, if I can stick my 2 cents in, yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of the pause, although the timing of it was really stupid because all the infrastructure was put in place and that's kind of horrifying. But, I don't support signing this letter because they're not talking about giving a resident exemption. And that's what I think we need. And I know it's not going to collect the money that they want to collect. But I guess my answer back is I don't care. I don't think it ever should have been about collecting money. I think it should have been about congestion and pollution, and it never was. It was all about the money. So that's my opinion. I would vote not to sign this, and because I don't agree. We didn't support it before. Why would we support it now? Sorry.
It's fine, Eric.
No surprise, I don't think we should sign it, but, it's actually, they made a misstatement in the letter as well. I mean, first of all, I just want to reiterate, I'm against suggestion pricing, it's all about the money, okay? And the MTA has to do better with the money they already have, but there is dedicated funding. It mentions that the MTA needs dedicated funding. But, so that's incorrect that they don't, because the MTA has dedicated funding from the 9 bridges and tunnels, which it has, as well as the dedicated taxes it has. Mortgage reporting tax, they get a portion of our sales tax. There's a mansion tax, when you want to sell properties over $1 million, they get a percentage of that. So it's not true on that front. They have dedicated funding. And of course, I'm not even talking about fair, but they have dedicated taxes assigned to them. Some other ones are on our utility bills, on our cell phone bills. If you look, there's an MCTD, which is a Metropolitan Commuter Transportation District, which collects money on behalf of the MTA. So there are numerous MTA dedicated funding schemes that MTA has.
No, you're absolutely correct. And that was all known by General Lieber when he said they needed more money for bonding these capital improvements. It was also known when the governor said something's got to be done. When the electeds voted in 2019, all those things were known. So obviously they had a feeling at that time that wasn't enough to bond out the capital improvements. But it certainly is money streamed into interest.
The entire, I mean, you guys probably know this, but the entire capital plan, almost the entire capital plan was based on this funding, and almost every
That's,
capital project has been canceled.
that's not true. That's not true. No, because the capital program, it's a 5-year capital plan. And the one that they had that's about to end is 2020 to 24. And that's 55 billion. So, and then the previous capital program, 2016 to 2020 was 30 billion. So they do have a significant, it's not that this congestion pricing scheme, so it would have only added 15 billion. And it puts the MTA into long-term debt, interest payments. So it's not free money. It's gonna be, MTA is gonna have debt, pay this off for decades. And then in case it does meet with that other side benefit they keep on talking about, reducing traffic congestion. If the toll revenue is reduced, because, it actually did succeed in reducing car use, they're gonna need to raise the tolls because all of that revenue is bonded. So
Okay, so
it's just
I apologize, it's not the whole capital plan budget, it's just half of it. And they have had to cancel numerous projects, and that's just fact as a result of this. And that's what this letter is. Like, I don't want to turn this into a debate about congestion pricing. We all know where we all stand. This letter was people who I know, a lot of the people who were behind this letter, they're not all in favor of congestion pricing. But when they saw the governor come out and unilaterally just end something that had been passed by the legislature, there were hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts that were signed to do this. Capital plan was largely based on this funding coming in. People were alarmed by that. And that's what this letter is about. This is not it is pro-congestion pricing, but it's not a 100% we need congestion pricing to come back just as it was. It's just saying, you have now put us in an emergency with our public transit, and we should go forward with the plan that we have. That's all.
So wait, let's go back to the slides, because I just went through and put together kind of where we are now and how we got here. You can go to the slides on this. They're pretty brief to go through, but might as well play out. Okay, I have to look backward. Keep on. Go. You're just present. Letter. Yeah. Well, when the governor was for it, so this was immediately pre-paused. The whole point was to remind you that she was pushing, not to speak with the speaker to see it. But it was about gridlock. It was about better transit. It was about getting changes for more accessibility for those with disability, like myself. And it was to have cleaner air. Those were the rationales. That's what the governor is saying. Okay, where do we go from there? Next. It was also kind of nailed down that the people who take mass transit, on average, have less money than the people who use their cards to transport. So for the sympathy vote, who needs more was kind of nailed with that. Next.
Are we
Oh.
talking concern?
Yes.
I thought we just told.
I thought we just said we didn't
that
mean
the
to.
Vote is either up or down, yes or no.
It's up or down, but this is on debate about people saying, what is the whole point of it? It's also the background issue of, we do have a climate law that has to be met. 35% of the gas carbons are coming from transportation. So if we don't reduce transportation, we're not going to meet, and we already are behind on the state goals for that as well. So that's kind of lurking out there and is on the minds of some of the elected officials, but you should know that as well. Next. And what has come out from the MTA is very much that it is going to affect capital change. So I'm not going to call them liars. But they are going to be cutting things back. Next. Oh, and then there's the concern that since everything went through with getting the city, the state, and the federal in charge, as soon as a pause is on and there are any changes, we start the whole process all over again. Because the federal, any changes, and that means the whole environmental assessment has to be redone. And we have Trump already saying if he becomes president, he's gonna kill this anyway in January. So that's out there in the background. Next. Oh, yeah, and some of the argument of people right now, this is a bad time. Mayor Adams was coming out and saying kind of the opposite with, oh, well, we're kind of back and that really isn't an issue. But then again, he still supports the governor and says whatever she works out is fine. But again, we're getting conflicting information, pointing out the confusion that's out there and just how little we know. Next. Oh, and yes, congestion is way up to all-time highs. So that problem is certainly still here. It's ongoing. It's going to probably continue to worsen. Next. As far as us as a district, we are 56 out of 59 for bus speeds. There are 3 others that have slower bus speeds than us, but it's getting pretty bad. And all of them are congestion, or in the CBD as well. Next, when you look at us for pollution, we're a little bit better, but we're still 6 out of 59, and the others, except for one in Brooklyn, are all in the CBD. So that is still a legitimate concern, and that was one of the goals of congestion pricing. Next. So, I want to hear what you have to say, but I have some recommended wording. What I did, I trudged through our past resolution because I know there is the concern for consistency. So I think this will remind you what was said and was asking for more, less financial burden coming to non-government entities. And then more preparation was the second part of it. Next, and this was 2021, so this was before the Transportation Review Mobility Board made the decisions about the actual detail. We didn't know the details yet at that point. After we knew the details, the resolution that was written then, only asked that the residents that earn not get a tax rebate, but get an exemption in the first place. But also exempting all residents. There was some change that was written, as Chris just mentioned. As long as you didn't exit, you could drive all around the zone, something that London and others don't do for their residents. So it wasn't quite as harsh as some of the local residents thought with the congestion pricing program as it was defined at that time. That's all I can say about it, because who knows what it is now. Next. So, should we do a resolution or not? So let's continue with people for consensus. Why? Because I need some insights for the resolution whereas. I believe we are well beyond anybody convincing anybody else. I merely want thoughts at the initial people like Eric.
Well, I'm gonna vote no, that we should not support it, and if I could just, I read, you sent that in your letter, and I always respect everything you say. I read there was 4, I think, articles and stuff like that, and the stuff that you just presented now. And when I say you, I don't mean you personally, I'm saying you in general. When you're a committee member, you should advocate your position totally.
That's true.
But as a chairperson, and then also in general, there needs to be, I've read so many, an equal amount of articles from high-level periodicals and from CBS News went to London and interviewed everybody from business owners to bus drivers to the equivalent of the MTA over there and about their effects after the last 20, 30 years. And there was I'm surprised that there was a big editorial in the Daily News about a week ago from Joe Loder, who used to be the MTA boss. I don't align myself with him politically. So my question is, if you read it, and I'm just going to tell everybody of 1 or 2 things that was in it, you definitely should have included it because there wasn't, he's for desperately needed funding. And what he suggested in this article, but he said that the congestion pricing, because of things about all that we've mentioned, might not be the right thing to do. But adding on the transit tax, I forget exactly what it was, but some type of transit tax that's in something that's already collected.
That's what Eric was talking about.
Adding 3/8% to have, so basically 38 cents on $100. And that would be a revenue stream, a continuing revenue stream that would more than make up for what would be getting in congestion pricing. And, you know, those things should also be presented.
Well, that's not exactly true.
Okay, right, but
Say it was true. He didn't say it was equivalent to, he said it would be a source of more money.
so then, like,
We're still worried about burdens on small.
no, but my point, okay, my point.
Yes or no, sign the letter.
Right, so my point, okay, so my point is, and I agree with Jeff, that yes, no sign of it, and I'm no on that.
Right.
But it would be, I think it would be more fair if some of, like, both sides were presented instead of just one side.
Other perspectives.
Have you guys watched like a Senate hearing? Does Dick Durbin invite Brett Kavanaugh to speak at the Senate Judiciary Committee?
Like, you know,
You want us
Gonna
to,
compare this to that? Are you?
but like, what do you want us to do? I mean, if.
I said what would be.
Send it to us and
No,
we'll let it present it.
Betty's a very smart person and she does a lot of research, and I'm saying it's just every single, as a chairperson, you know, this is not Democrat versus Republican. As a chairperson, I would think that you would present some like educational, logical things of, because it's not just one-sided. And when I read some of these things, and I saw the CBS News, if anybody else saw that, they did about 3 or 4 days where they sent some reporters to London. And I thought that everything Betty had said was exactly true, that everything was Humpty Dumpty over there. And
I never.
you're gonna say Humpty Dumpty, but I'm just paraphrasing.
Well, it's never been positive there. I was married to a guy from London. I was there all the time for many days.
Well, so they just, it's just.
Mitch, we've talked this one before, right?
Okay, so-
If
No,
there are,
no, and then.
if there are things you want us to present, send it to us before, instead of coming in and yelling at us for not putting.
I'm not yelling.
Well, that's the point is, you're here to state your opinion, as is everybody else.
This is,
Any
And I
of
respect the hell out of Betty personally.
anybody believe they would convince anybody else to change their position? I don't.
but on this issue, so,
Why would you send this
so
over?
do you mind if I send an email?
Say no, don't sign it.
Do you mind if I send, like, I saw the email and I saw the links and I read it. Do you mind if I send other opinions in the future? Of course, to everyone? Of course.
That's your.
Oh, okay, I thought that was not protocol.
I want there to be more revenue to fix the ADA, and all the other things.
You could send it around. send
Wait,
it-
can I add my 2 cents, please? I don't think you can send your opinion, Eric. I think you could send articles that have a different opinion. That's very different, because Betty doesn't
You can
send
hold,
her
you can
opinion.
hold your point, please. You have to hold
Yeah.
your position. I don't think Betty can't hear you or you can't hear her, but she's asked you to hold your position. She's not gonna speak in.
I've lost my train of thought, and so I wish people would please follow protocol and wait to be recognized. I understand the frustration of being online, because I play that position very often. But nevertheless, people just barging in is not a good way to go. I have invited you to speak, and certainly you're going to speak, and we're all going to hear opinions. Does anybody believe anyone's attitude is going to change about voting yes or no? No, I mean, I don't believe anyone's going to. So I have nothing that I said or would expect is going to change anyone's attitude, so I certainly wouldn't have blocked anything people want to send. Was there a lot of nonsense out there? As I said, my whole point is to show how much we do not know. This was just taking the words of the official elected officials, what they're saying, and they're saying they don't know. So to have ex-officials talking about their attitudes, it's kind of irrelevant to the point. Because I think everyone here is going to admit that we have congestion right now. We have pollution right now. We have everything right now and nothing is resolved and we don't know where it's going. In that whole scenario, what do you want to do? This letter's already been released. Is it an up or down, yes or no vote, period? Tony, did you want to say something?
Yes, but I want to say that basically that I know that we can't, that congestion pricing, what's set in stone as far as you know, B, all of those things, they can be altered, right? And
That's not what this letter was trying to do and does do.
okay,
I think anything can be altered. This,
I mean,
Well, that's
it's another discussion.
That's not this yes, no, the letter is very much what was the program and is now on pause. Do you agree with them to lift the pause, or do you not agree and you're just happy the pause is on? Or you think it's all futile and so you still wouldn't sign it? Doesn't matter. Yes or no, where do you stand? If you have an opinion, one.
Kind of, I'm holding my breath until after November, because I think that it's a wait and see thing at this time. Quite honestly.
Which is the third option, which would still be, do you agree not sign the letter?
I like the letter.
Right, but if you want to pause, what does pause mean and wait? You said you want to pause, you want to wait until November. Does that mean not sign the letter? Which we're talking about tonight.
I mean, I agree with the letter.
Would you sign it? Or would you wait till November and find out what's going on?
I think it might, well, honestly, waiting until November, is just simply like waiting to see what's going on. I feel like this feeling that something might happen.
Well, exactly. So the question is, sign or not sign? You can decide which way you want to go when we vote, but Carrie, anyone have a comment?
No, I'm gonna wait. I wanna have the benefit of everybody's.
Right, and I want, as I said, CB3 did not sign because they just wanted to put it on hold. Which is where I think the two of you are saying, and that is a very viable option, which means they did not sign because they wanted to wait. Brendan, you have,
No, I'm probably gonna vote no. No.
then why don't we formalize that so we can move on? But Justine, did you have something you want to say before we vote?
No, I just was actually sticking up for you, in terms of the way that the stuff was presented, that Mitch was saying and Eric was saying, can I just make my opinion? That's all.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you, but,
yeah, that's okay. We move on. No, my vote would be don't sign the letter, and that's where I stand.
So call the question.
great.
Second.
Yes, we have one vote already. How many people, let's make it easy. Did anybody sign the letter? 2 would sign, 3 would sign. Are there any abstentions?
I would abstain.
Are you keeping the count?
no, we got 10 people, so that's three votes for.
3 votes, right, 3 votes for, 1 for abstention. And I'm gonna assume all the others are negative.
Extensions are negative.
Yes.
Yes, that's true. It's not a positive.
I don't think so. Vote. Unless you want to.
Do we not want to?
What do we vote on? Voting on signing off.
Marianne,
I want to go back to
We
the,
have to vote on a resolution or?
yeah, we voted not.
wait, go back to therefore be it
Not
resolved.
signing, so that could get ready.
Okay, so yeah, let's vote on a resolution to sign it and then
Have to make a bunch of.
let's do that.
We just voted, I thought.
We decide
Well, let's formalize, let's get it, it's easier to get it down, so let's just do it.
So what's the wording of the resolution, Jess?
Would we be voting on,
It's the slide that has it.
okay.
Okay. This was taken. Yeah, this was taken actually from our past resolution. Kind of what I put together. So first of all, you can make comments about tweaking them because that's very fair before the vote if you want to do
Yeah,
it.
okay, so let's be very clear though, because these are two different things, right? A resolution say, if we vote down a resolution that say we support it, it's different than voting for a resolution that says we don't support it.
Well, support, don't support, right, but then the support / do not.
Why would we have a resolution at all if we don't support signing it?
I agree, and that's.
It should have been a condition.
But we can simply
I
vote
I
down the
think not
resolution,
putting,
right? We don't have to have a resolution saying we don't support it.
No, I think we have to reach a decision.
Yes, we need a decision.
I think we need to vote on whether or not to sign it, and then.
It's not the exact wording they're voting on, so I'm sorry that would have to be redone, but it's the same thing.
I mean, honestly, like, why would we, are we just getting a resolution out of this committee no matter what?
Yes, well, I think we should have an answer because we were asked about signing, and it was supposed to ask. The team of people from CD 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
I don't think we need to have a resolution to answer. If we were asked by somebody else, then maybe.
Asked us to act on this.
Okay, but if we're acting on it, if we have a resolution that says we support the letter
No, I
and we
don't.
vote it down, then that's it.
Which I thought we were doing. I thought we were.
Yeah, that's what I thought we just voted on.
I'll let you pick the wording you want to vote on, but
I
don't care.
feel like we shouldn't necessarily just say that like we don't support the letter and make that a resolution, because that's, I think that we already have an opinion on it. We've already put our opinion in resolutions, making a whole other resolution for it just means we have to go through that long night talking about congestion pricing.
Right.
Does anybody feel like to talk about it again? Or do you feel
Can't the resolution be narrowly
it is?
constructed so that it's,
Again,
we've been asked, that CV1 has been asked to sign a letter with transportation committee and
Right.
voted not to sign.
I don't think we answer to those,
yes, no, we were asked, yes,
yes, we don't answer to those boards with resolution. We were just like not, like, we don't write resolutions to other boards.
unless you want to write a letter, which I don't really want to do. I would rather we have a resolution of where we stand in terms of the letter. We were invited to sign the letter. Where do we as a board stand?
We just,
Well,
we
let-
just
let-
voted on it.
Let me ask this question, because it's,
Forget that because that was considered an error because people are asking
We
questions
just
now.
voted on it.
but hold on,
Don't forget it.
But they want, it's going to be the same vote. I know that.
will it?
With support.
Would you be in favor, would you vote for a resolution saying that you don't support the letter? Because it's
You
super.
don't support signing a letter for, and I think they're going to, it's time not to.
I think we should just put the letter in a drawer, act like we never saw it, except that we had this conversation, it's on record.
Or until after November.
May I speak?
Prefer nothing come out of the committee about the letter.
But, well, I think you have to do something. I think the third option though would be to not act on.
That's
We
what I'm
voted
talking
it
about.
down.
But that's still a choice. You want to make it a three-way choice.
Am I on stage?
When we support it, we don't support it, we choose not to act.
Decide.
So your argument is from Robert's rules, we voted on it, so we have to take action, we have to document
I'm not now.
Oh, you're the one that knows.
it. No.
This is your job, Eric.
Well, since we voted on it, we have to do something, then I'll take the general one on that.
I agree with that,
The question was called.
Yeah, yes, correct.
I agree,
And I seconded it.
but.
Yes.
Vote down.
That-
the resolution.
Decided that we don't want to support that letter. It's just, that's a simple, we don't support the letter, we're not signing it. That's what happened. Why do we have to write anything else?
And I agree, I think when you say put a clause on it, to me, that's not support at this time at least.
But we didn't vote about the clause, we voted with yes or no.
We voted not to sign.
The letter
No,
is
we
simply
don't vote on
about lifting the clause.
Like, the.
That's what I mean
That's
by.
like-
But what we voted on was whether or not to sign.
Right,
Why don't-
that's-
Why don't we change the wording from support to does not support to say Manhattan Community Board 1 chose or voted, whatever, not to sign the letter, sign on to the letter from the other community boards? And that sentence is fine. And then the goals are
I would
fine.
also.
I mean,
That's just a expression of reality.
I moved to that, with that change,
That's what we did.
I moved that we vote on that.
Change the wording, so take the wording as it is, or recommend a change to the wording. And first of all, you want pause or not pause, so that's gonna affect how you vote, yes or no, to get what you want done.
I thought we voted pause, not pause.
Sounds like most people don't support, so I would tend to just write it that way, so it sounds straightforward to the.
So fine, let's do that though.
You
Now we
prefer
have
that
to vote
language,
yes
that's
to the resolution.
fine.
All the no's have to be yeses.
And then-
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Right, that's what we're clarifying, Mitch,
Okay.
so you know that I don't expect people to change the intent of their vote.
Sure. Clear, we have to be clear.
It's probably,
You
but,
wanna wait till Lena gets back from?
well, yeah, we will. And take this, and look at the second part as well, if we can go back to it. So I wish I had brought a paper copy of this.
I
That first vote was an official vote? We didn't vote, we didn't know what we were
Well,
voting.
leave
Well,
that for.
well,
We voted against signing the letter. That should be written in stone. And then if you want to do something else,
You
fine.
didn't vote on, you voted no on a resolution that said support. So, okay, so we could do that. You want to do it that way?
you don't want to do, you voted with the wrong
We
wording.
voted resolutions, ideas, right?
So we really want to vote knowing what the wording is, because that will affect if you vote yes or no,
Okay,
to give your intent.
so if it's, since we didn't do it properly or it was ambiguous,
Yeah.
now we can do it again. Because of-
Right.
I'm saying.
Yes,
Right.
it's ambiguous.
It was ambiguous and it needs to be straightened out. And there's a second part to it too that also got rushed and looked at. And maybe people say, but I don't want that in there. So if we go back to the, therefore be it resolved, you can at least address that while meeting now.
Right, we could at least put the language up there that we're going to vote on.
Yeah, and then let's move forward and vote once it gets up there.
And Mimi comes back. Okay, vote to change it, does not support. Just cross out the word supports.
Yeah, just get rid of support, right? Perfect. I call the question.
Wait. Stop rushing. We already got in trouble once for doing that. Please let me run the meeting. I know people don't want to do that, but consider it.
You're not in trouble.
So Eric, I thought that the rule was that you couldn't circulate information, or you can't discuss it outside of the meeting. Remember, there was at one point where Tammy sent a note around
Okay.
saying, you can't discuss.
Is that wording
things
written
outside
here?
of the meeting because it's part of.
Makes sense to you?
debate.
Okay.
What about second share information?
Which is also consistent with.
Okay, that's new to me, but, okay, then the next.
If you make it bigger than that,
So I can
Yeah,
share.
I would like to listen to
Zach, can you make it a little bigger, please?
I don't want to either, but I guess I will.
I think it was certainly if you say you wanted to do like Jeff Price was supposed to do, but
But, you know,
Not sure we.
you have things in there that are kind of supporting or not supporting the congestion pricing. We're just voting not to sign the letter.
No, the things on the bottom are things that we passed in past resolutions. And they do not necessitate congestion pricing or any price within congestion pricing. We're simply saying, we don't like pollution. We don't like congestion.
Of course.
Well, exactly. I mean, which is why it was passed the last.
Okay.
But look at it again to make sure that really just says that if that's a distraction to people and you want to vote on just the first part, I think that's up to the committee to decide what they want to do, and let's move forward and vote.
Well, of course, I'm against pollution and of course I'm against congestion, but for this specific thing, I would be in favor of just having the first paragraph in there.
Same here.
I would.
Same here.
all right, so it sounds like more people than not want to get rid of the second paragraph. Let me straight to the first one. And take out the and at the end.
Yeah. I love your detail, thank you. Get rid of the semicolon in the end, make it a period, and get rid of the whole second part. Nope,
All that?
yes, but it's just one, therefore be it resolved, which is a period.
And it's a period.
Everyone agree that's what it says, so you know what you're voting on?
Say no to everything.
Yeah, no. Now it gets voted to no vote.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say no to whatever. I don't think we should have a resolution come out about it at all. Yay or nay? I think nothing.
All right, so just everybody now.
From what you voted before,
Yeah.
a yes vote there is exactly what you voted.
No, it's not exactly. It's not.
No, this is still a resolution.
This is-
Right, she doesn't want to.
And I think that we shouldn't have
Okay.
a resolution in
Not
full
supporting it.
board about anything about this letter.
Well, we
We-
were asked, and so we're responding. to
I mean, but we don't respond to other.
For example, Community Board 3 took no action.
We were part of.
Right.
What
Well,
we're
do we have
proposing
to-
here is to be the only community board saying.
Obligated to respond, just to take Nina's point, I mean, I'm happy to do that, but are we obligated to respond or just out of courtesy?
No, I think out of courtesy you do, but as I said, there are really three options. We can support signing it, we can not support signing it, Or we can just say we want to put it on pause, hold, and make no decision.
We could
So
table it.
anything, just not respond.
Yeah, I think that we don't have to
Well,
respond
I
because
still have a response.
there's a huge difference between saying, yes, we will sign it, and then saying, absolutely no, we're gonna not sign it, and we're gonna write a resolution about it. Like, they asked us to sign it, and we can say yes or no, but that doesn't mean we have to have a resolution. No. We'll do
It's
it.
a big problem with having a
I'm
resolution,
actually
just a record, so.
kind of, getting starting to change my opinion, and I'm starting to agree with them.
I don't think, like, I don't want to have a resolution essentially like slapping other community boards either. If we're not gonna support it, then why do we need to have a whole resolution about it? When it's like, it's fine, they can do whatever they want, but I don't wanna come out and be like, they shouldn't have a letter. Like, that's weird.
Right.
Ask them not to do it.
And support is also like, we were asked to sign it, and now, like, we could decide not to sign it, but then we're going further and saying, not only we're not signing it, we don't support this.
It'll be obvious we didn't sign it if our signature's not on it. We don't have to have a resolution that says, hey, we didn't sign it.
So can we do this? Can we then just agree to pause on the decision to sign until after November, which I don't fully know what the wait till then?
The election.
Well, I got that, but I'm also like, I don't think this is top priority for everybody. But you know, what else? Can we consider? And then that means that nothing comes out of us and that sort of thing.
What about no date? Instead, we choose not to sign at this time. It's been very ambiguous.
Nice.
Maybe the question is, we didn't sign at the time because our signature's not on it. I don't think, like, it's like, oh, hey, I would love for you to come to my party. And then I like tell all my friends, I'm not going to that party. It's like.
Can we take a vote as to whether or not to pass the resolution or not? I mean, that might be the vote. That seems what we're fighting about now. Do we vote to pass the resolution? Or do we vote to do nothing?
You can say choose to do nothing because there's too little known about the issue.
Yeah.
So we could vote that? Thank you. Okay.
I think that is that's one of my issues with not wanting to sign it.
But then you're saying that they're ignorant.
No, but
Right.
they signed it a month ago.
But-
Things are very different.
I still feel like, I just don't wanna have like, they can do what they want with the letter. I think that's wonderful. And I don't wanna say either way. I think they have the letter and we didn't sign it and that's.
I think we're signing it or we're not signing it.
Well, then if that's the case, then I vote yes on that.
So
But
you-
wait, isn't the threshold question whether or not we think we need a resolution at all? Shouldn't we address that first and then decide whether or not a resolution?
Is supporting or not supporting? That's exactly what I said, but I guess you guys can't hear me.
I would ask to write a letter of rebuttal. I don't choose to do that.
We don't do anything is what Mimi is,
She knows what I'm saying, I'm sure of it.
I just want to bring closure for Tammy because I was specifically asked to do that.
I don't think a resolution could pass, either one that says support it or one that says doesn't support it. We can vote on it.
We choose not,
So the resolution would be that we choose to do nothing at this time.
We could
Yeah.
also do a motion to table and we can table
Table
it, right?
I'd rather table it because I'm also starting to think about, like, I don't necessarily want to have this full discussion and conversation at full board. Especially like on the letter.
let's take it, but Eric, Eric, do we have to vote on it to table it or can we table it before the vote?
Say it again, say it again.
Can you
Do you
table
have to have a vote to table it or can you table it before there's even a vote taken?
If somebody makes the motion to table it, so
It can
then,
be done at any time in the past.
yes, and then we vote on it, and table it.
But
Then
then
you
you're,
would like to do that, and I said, maybe you'd like to, then you can make the motion to
well,
table.
we don't have a resolution to table. That would be during full board, right?
Well, we previously had a resolution, I mean, no, pardon, we previously voted on it, but we're doing it again because it was ambiguous, so.
I thought we
have them in committee.
I thought we were voting on whether or not we were going to have a resolution to sign it.
We are, because that's our recommendation to the board, but it is like any other committee resolution. The committee votes on it and then they take it to the board. If it's tabled in committee, then it does not move beyond committee.
Also, then, as chair, are you bringing, this motion, are you bringing this up for us to vote on, and then we can take, somebody can announce if they want to table it. It depends on what you're calling it to be, this discussion.
Well, that's why I was asking the parliamentarian, since there seems to be some call, why don't we just table this and leave it rather than having wording that says, we want to leave it for now? Table it and act on it, which is what Stevie Free did. And if we can do that, which pretty much kills it in committee, unless we choose to bring it back next month, which we're not going to, but we're on vacation. But yes. But can we do that?
So if somebody makes a motion to table it, then we'll vote on it, and if you,
So we
Table.
can table it committee.
yes.
If we have to.
Table,
Second.
let's vote to
Can
table.
we get a vote to table?
Table.
Nay?
Are you saying yes or no? Are we saying yes? Okay, yes.
To table it.
In
favor of tabling.
Yeah, I'd love to table it.
I assume the other ones want to not table
Well, the table one, so.
Well, we don't-
I'd like to table, if I'm allowed to speak.
it? Yes, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 votes. So it definitely goes with that. The question is, do you want to finish off the vote?
I don't know, do we have to report it? We report tabling? I don't think we report tabling or, but
Don't you support?
We recorded in full board.
Yeah, yes,
You have a vote, you have to.
right.
report it.
I think I forgot to do that last time.
Well, that means that somebody forgot to hold the vote.
Let's just roll call it, get it right.
Okay, I'll go along with the,
Not yet.
Well, if you want, just wants a roll call, it's probably.
Keep your hand up.
It's his fault.
I think it'll be faster.
On the motion to table. Okay, Betty.
Yes.
never do one up again.
Jess, no. Justine.
Sorry, you're asking me? I say table.
Amy.
Table.
Mitch.
Rest of them.
Cody.
Table.
Hedda.
Table.
Brendan.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Bassett. Tabled.
Okay, so now we don't have to take it forward. Again, with tabling, you can bring it back to the next meeting. Not that I think anyone's going to want to, but just so everybody knows. If August is a vacation, it's the next meeting, so it would be September.
Oh,
Wait, what about, we meet at the end of July?
we do.
No, no, no.
But the next.
Well, you got it.
Right, so
You-
I'm correct, so September has, since August has no meeting, next meeting for Robert's rules would be September for this. Correct? No, not right.
I'll be in Alaska in September, so somebody could bring it back.
Yeah, this table is always the next month, it's next month of the meeting. Okay. I'm refreshing my memory with little I know about others. Okay. And finally, one last thing is looking at a request for a New York City ferry to LaGuardia and or JFK. It was originally just for LaGuardia, and you can certainly say that's what we want, if you want anything at all.
Slide.
We looked at that. Does anyone want to see? I did a draft resolution that lays out some of the very few things to say about it.
Like that.
I guess you're not going to the resolution. It's very straightforward and it really asks. We've been on, we CD1, have been on record for about 15 years of wanting a one-seat ride to an airport. We did put in one going to Newark Airport. Pat has been permanently on hold, so that's not really terribly likely to happen in the near future. Turns out right now there is a resolution before City Council asking for, asking the EDC to please put LaGuardia Airport on one of their routes. It doesn't have to be dedicated to ferry, but somehow get it there. Somebody would argue JFK would be the same sort of thing. So why not give EDC the option to make it a either or? I leave that to you to decide. We have 2 docks in our district that the EDC already operates out of. So there are 2 possible choices. The one at Wall Street's much more likely, it's already on the East River and doing a lot of routes that can be added to. The one from Battery Park City is a lot less likely, they'd have to travel around the bond. Nevertheless, this is something that Tammy has asked for too. I know she's very supportive of this happening. As I said, we are on record for almost 15 years asking for one ride. This is another attempt. And there currently is a resolution before city council, which is why this not only supports and asks the EDC, but it supports and asks our council person to support this particular resolution.
Betty, maybe before, I remember, there used to be a one-stop, it was on the express bus on Church, a few blocks south of here, and then they took that away, so maybe that was 15 years ago. But there used to be, that would be, I mean, of course, I'm no reason to be against this, but it's, you know, unless you're just kind of going with a briefcase, it's kind of makes it difficult for most people that are going to the airport to go down to the ferry dock and then to the dock. And so I'd really love to also maybe another resolution or include like a one-stop, there was a bus, like I said, like on like Lower Manhattan, just like one from Port Authority, it went directly to Newark, also went to LaGuardia. Obviously, you got the, you know, you can do the train to the plane to JFK, but, you know, one stop, but the ferry makes it hard. I mean, like I said, I'm for it, for the people that it's gonna help, but it's not gonna help the majority of people that really need the one-stop ride, that are gonna be carrying stuff that have to kind of get to there, and then from there, get from there to, you know, the airport.
Well, they could potentially do, if you remember Elizabeth Fast Ferry, they made a deal with the airlines at Newark Airport, because that's where they were going.
Sure,
And you could actually check your bag at the ferry.
that would be wonderful.
Yeah, that
Just to
was,
say, there are some things to kind of deal with that
Well,
problem.
I'm gonna vote for this,
I think it's very legitimate.
but there are other, like, there's other one-stops that, you know, whether it's, you know, reconfiguring with the way the R train stops and stuff like that, but there, you know, there are other things that I would love to see that a one-stop from this area that used to be, and, you know, but, of course, I'm gonna vote for that. I just feel that, you know, helps a small percentage of people, no downside, but, you know, other things that could also be even better.
Yeah, no, and that's agreed. This is really piggybacking on a resolution that's out there. And the demand that there is, and the fact that we looked for Elizabeth Fast Ferry, which is delayed. We've looked at PATH train, and that's delayed. So a lot of our options that we've tried in the past have not panned out, at least not in the near future. So Tammy had asked, and I said I would bring it before committee to see what you all think.
You know,
And what do you think of Kennedy as well as LaGuardia, or do you want to strip it down to just LaGuardia?
Just LaGuardia, because that habitat is very fragile. The ferry service to get to JFK has to go, my understanding is have to go through Jamaica Bay. And that habitat is fragile.
Is that generally agreed upon?
I'm not sure I
is
understand.
there a ferry that goes, because there's already a ferry that goes over by LaGuardia to Rockwood.
There are ferries
one to
that go
Rockaway.
close to both.
There's a ferry that goes to Rockwood Beach.
People that are gonna be using the ferry too.
Oh, I see that, yeah.
Yeah,
Both
but
of
to
them
get to
ferries
the
are-
airport, you have to go into that, past the Broad Channel, which is, there's, I can send you search around about bird habitat and species. And it's also in the HAT study.
Listen to a few more people, and then I do want to get a consensus on what Carrie's asking for, because why that's ultimately gonna be part of what's in the vote or not, and I want to clarify that.
I definitely support both, a shuttle to both, ferry service to both, but I think LaGuardia is more important. JFK has an air train already, a subway connection, and then also the way that JFK is, there's so many terminals, you end up taking the air train anyway. So, and if limited funding, as we had the previous meeting where EDC said that they subsidize each ride, you know, actually more than, you know, like 2 or 3 times the cost of what the fare is, I think we should just go for LaGuardia right now, 'cause they really need it.
Great, that sounds like a consensus. Anybody opposed to limiting it to just LaGuardia? And Zach, if you could just cut it down to service to just to LaGuardia Airport. So that people know what they're voting on. We'll clarify that. Any other comments, Cody?
I think everyone pretty much agrees that I fully support Mary LaGuardia part because it's wildly hard to get to LaGuardia. And then secondly, it's like we're a city of islands, waterways, are just these big open highways, so should take full advantage. That's the train is 1.6 and they're 60 bucks.
Yeah, and there's even more moves now with, things like blue highways where New York City is looking to use the waterways more. Also help decongest the roads a bit. But since we are such a marine district, surrounded by water all the way around except the north end. I see it's fairly reasonable that we would ask for it. Is it gonna be everyone's first choice? Nothing is everybody's first choice. Is it a worthwhile request, especially since it's a resolution for City Hall? That's the reason this is coming up now. Anything else? Someone want to call a question? What do you want to say?
Call the question. Second.
Great, we'll do this by affirmation. Are there any nays? And Justine, if you want to just get your vote.
Thank you. Sorry. I vote yes. I approve of it. I agree.
Are there any abstentions? Then it looks like it's unanimously a yes. I'm assuming there's no recusals. Exactly. Great. Okay, so we have that resolution passed. Actually, we have two resolutions passed. One of them is tabled, passed, completed. Table. Not this.
Same.
It's not.
I left off.
Well, we only have one thing we have to take to full board. We just go. Providing a few updates, as you know, really quickly on this. But they're mostly important because there were a whole bunch of laws that came up at the end, just that you may want to be updated on. Well, they did reauthorize the red light cameras. They did increase it. 150 to 600, but that's way less than the DOT was asking for, so it's somewhere in there, and they haven't announced where they're gonna put them yet, but now the DOT has some leeway to place other ones which purported to be that.
Then it's a $600 ticket. I mean, it's terrible to go through a red light, but it's a $600 ticket now for getting caught with a red light.
No, there's a number of red lights.
So
There's a number of red lights that takes a lot of.
I misheard.
I think it is a good idea.
It's with the fine or anything else.
It's all the questions.
I'm sorry. As Gilda said, it was never mind.
If the sound camera is $800 for the first ticket, why wouldn't, we should have a resolution to raise that.
I don't know, we're not talking about it, we're just saying, yes, it was reauthorized for those who are wondering, because it wasn't expanded, just reauthorized. It was going to stay sunlight by the end of this year, sunset, and so there would be no red light camera at all. So the state had to act. When acting, they didn't go the bigger number of 1,325 crossings the DOT requested, but they went to 600, so they have an increase.
But we do.
Right.
In September, when I'm in Alaska, we can do a resolution on raising the.
We're gonna do it.
I don't know how much the fine is though, but. It's.
Well, this one, yeah, for our district to know. Because now it's the part of Sammy's law that went through again in the budget, which allows New York City to set the speed limit from 25 down to 20 miles per hour. And some streets were named, there can be single blocks, it can be multiple streets, length of a single street, it can be all kinds of things. But they're going to do some slow zones. The first one they're going to do is south of Canal Street. So, what do we want to hear? This, we're gonna be hearing from it.
Would that include?
We're still not gonna have any answers yet, because I doubt they have
It's
any.
still pretty preliminary, but, once I get more information, I can share.
So you know if it include West Street or the FDR?
And then I'm not sure.
I don't think that the 20 miles is gonna go on the west side highway.
No, I read something about it, like if it's 2 lanes in each direction, they can't do it. It's only the.
In outer.
That's an out. But I imagine that it wouldn't be much street better.
And again, I doubt they would go to the minimum, because again, they can do anything down to 20 miles per hour. They don't have to be consistent. But we're going to hopefully hear from the DOT soon about what the plan is. It will be involving our district very heavily. We'll be clean on that. Next. Oh, yes, and work that's been done with the e-bike batteries. Again, with the hopes in the state level, getting a little bit more standardization, more safety. They want to see more people going back from mopeds to e-bikes, because mopeds are kind of neither fish nor fowl. So many places they can't go, and they certainly don't belong in bike lanes. They're probably not terribly safe in the middle of lanes of traffic. So that's the hope of the person who promoted this particular bill, which was passed, and it was in the budget. What else came up in that session? Oh, there was a bill for city sanitation with cameras that would find illegally parked cars and other things, and that did not. It passed the Senate, it did not pass the Assembly, so it is not active. It may come up again next session, but that didn't pass for those who want to know what happened to it. Next one. Oh, yeah, I don't stop. When you use stop signs as yield signs, if you're on a bicycle, that again, only passed the Senate, didn't pass the Assembly, so that did not become law. It's probably still kicking around. The Senate did greenlight requiring transportation departments to consider street designs on all road projects. Again, it did not pass, and we'll have to see what happens.
So I'm surprised they would stop and stop for everybody. So, but the Assembly passed it so that cyclists do not need to stop. That's crazy. No.
I mean, they don't stop nowadays.
I mean, they should, but it should be, yeah.
You know, when the walk sign comes in, that appears, some seconds can go, with a jump start. You know, all that.
But that already exists, right? That already exists.
That's what it's passed.
So, yeah, this is,
Somebody else.
this is a stop sign would be a red light would be a stop sign. It's not just gonna be a yield sign. It's been done in other places, but not here.
Is it done in front of house?
Glad.
Why is it called item?
I have no idea.
Anyway, get it passed.
Passed in one chamber, but not the other, so it's not law.
Sorry about that.
It was tabled.
The bill about installing speed covenants on those who are reckless drivers also did not get voted on at all, so that didn't go through either.
What's the speed governor, something you put in the car, like on
Yes, you can't exceed, it meets the speed limit for the street and your car can't go over that.
the, and what would be the number of, for recidivists to be labeled a recidivist? Because if it's a big number, that sounds like something that might be worthwhile.
What is?
I don't have a big number, and the impetus for that was, you recall, there was a piece of legislation about, you could go to these educational sessions to learn about what you did wrong, and it was like
That's not-
speeding tickets. I mean, it was a pretty big number. But anyway, that never came of anything, and finally sunsetted out. They're looking for other things that are.
Well, sometimes you read about somebody that killed somebody because they were driving recklessly, and then you find out they had like 25 speeding tickets. So, I don't want them to use it as a money grab on one or two times, but if somebody's been, got ticketed like 20, 30 times for the same thing, it makes sense.
Yeah, no, these are pretty big numbers.
Yeah, okay.
For speeding and putting it on. But again, you can go the speed of the street that you're on. So if you go on a faster street, it wouldn't limit you. On a slower street, it would limit you to their best speed. Can you go back one? Was there one more? Oh, yeah, exempting yourself for daylight. But that again didn't get voted on. So it may come up in the next session, but that didn't get voted.
That was an option. Why would that be an option?
It's,
What exempted, the exemption?
Or said David.
so, well,
Well, because New York state law is you have to be 20 feet away from stop signs, corners.
so
Stop signs.
New York City has exempted some of it.
Well, the state accepted New York City from it.
Oh,
So New York City can park right up to crosswalks. They can park right up to the corners.
what's the daylighting thing we've got on? Is that still somewhere?
That was passed and supposedly the city was going to do 1,000 a year, which isn't very, it would take 40, 50 years to catch up. In fact, the mayor has not moved forward with that. That's visible, so. Nevertheless, this would kind of negate that whole movement because they would say, you gotta follow state law.
20 feet's not that much. So I feel like daylighting would be bigger, right? Or is it still?
No, it's the same.
Oh,
It's a lot of stuff.
But that was the whole point. So what they're saying is, if you're not gonna follow state law, let's impose on some corners that we're pretending we're gonna follow state law on these corners. And also to know that the government services, General Services Administration, which is feds, the Department of Disability Act, the Access Board had passed regulations about the public right of way for the streets and the sidewalks. And implemented a lot of the rules for people with disabilities, which actually makes life for pedestrians so much easier. In fact, it was just passed on July 3rd. They were accepted by the GSA, which is the highest level for the federal government to endorse, put forward by the Access Board. But now it is federal law that these changes come into effect. The DOT had been looking at, and this is still a year ago, that they originally passed by the Access Board. But now we'll get to see what the city is going to do about it. They affect things such as when sidewalks are shut down, the construction. There needs to be a route that is accessible, which means strollers, bikes, other things can help they go that way. Right now, they really can't. So there are a lot of things. We'll see how the New York City DOT may respond to them, because now they sort of have to. The other was they knew it was coming, but it wasn't formalized. Now it's formalized.
Will that change the clear path sidewalks and the dining and all of those other things?
In some ways, it could, in many ways, they've operated within it, they were pretty conservative. Okay. But now sometimes when other groups break laws or break the DOT rules, they're actually breaking federal laws as well. Which will make maybe the enforcement a little bit, maybe. A little bit more considerate, but just as cars parking in front of curb cuts definitely goes against these right of way rules. If there's no enforcement, there's no enforcement. And the feds have come after multiple times. It would be interesting if the Southern District was one that came out about potentially suing. If some of this law change may actually give them more impetus, that now they really have to move behind with these changes on rights of way. So anyway, just let you know, there has been a change in federal land.
Suck. What if their standards aren't as good as the other standards? Why do they all have their own standards?
Because everyone has their own system.
It's so fascinating.
It's whatever.
And this is kind of interesting. I was thinking, and maybe it's not appropriate, but I was thinking of the hub for little baristas that they were thinking of putting by City Hall Park. Kind of interesting, because here you have the LPC coming out about bus shelters, which again used to be a big production. What do you do in historic districts? Because they're not historic looking structures at all. And the LPC has formalized a little change and said, they're bus shelters. As long as they meet New York City standards, that's good enough for us. They do not have to come to the LPC. I wonder if they will take some of these same stands on the street with things like newsstands as well. Say, maybe an historic district, but this is a public good in modern day. Go with it. We'll see, but I think I might be interested in seeing this changed and it's in effect later this month. And next, as you can see, it's really pretty open about whatever the DOT decides they're good with. Yeah. So Kate, you have more power.
Boy, don't
Where do I start with all this power?
One last, right with you about one last.
The picture of fixing society.
And then Archer Aviation at the green light to operate electric air taxi service. So they're one step closer to being able to do it. And again, you're still talking about 2026 is the most likely because they are signing agreements with the various airports. And they are signing agreements for doing shuttles like out to the Hamptons, out to the Jersey Shore and other places, the airports. So we'll kind of see where it goes.
But they're quieter than helicopters.
But they're very quiet.
Much quieter than the blade service that's already.
And there's no pollution. So there is,
The Jetsons coming to life.
it is very just.
We're gonna have this before train to LaGuardia.
So he was my senior electric one on it, I would think.
Yeah, all of us, there's not much money. Although I have to say, an article recently about somebody is coming in and somebody said, somebody from Greenwich Village said, well, now they're putting all these charges on Ubers. Pricing really isn't that different. But I mean, some. Obviously, he didn't look seriously at the price of getting a ticket. I don't know if it's right.
What's the price?
They're not.
I just never looked at it because I am not rich.
I'm more afraid, but I also pay a lot for Ubers to the airport, so it might be.
On the pilot.
Well, that's Scott's point, especially if they're multiple people.
You just fly there yourself.
But I can't fly to the airports and I don't have any VTOL, so, but I have an Archer.
But-
Wing.
In fact, besides the VTOLs being looked at for Pier 6 in our district, but across from Pier 25, so across from Hudson River Park, and the early ones, which are in North Battery Park City and up into Tribeca. New Jersey is putting, there's a dock there, you'll notice there's never leave anything on, and you see a whole bunch of overgrown grass around it. They have announced that's going to be an eVTOL launching pad with multiple.
You know, you just made me think of something, when I just talked about the senior fair and then the airport. The senior fairs on, besides like New York City Transit, Long Island Railroad, Half Train, New Jersey Transit, the only place that doesn't accept senior fare is the air train. And I was wondering if there's no senior fare for the air train, if there's no, like, you don't accept that Metro card, you have to, if it's full price. And so, might that be something that,
Is that FTA?
No,
no, it's called authority. I'm sure. Right, so the thing is, the PATH takes it, the Long Island Railroad takes it, New Jersey Transit takes it. They have,
We can look at that, and the ferries do take them too.
right, so the only place that I've experienced, is air train.
Yeah, no, that sounds pretty eyesight, because New York City Ferry does definitely have
Sure.
this.
So it's just something you said, just like made me think of that.
Yeah, well, we're thinking,
your idea, see?
think a way of phrasing it, but I will look into that.
More about the
That's-
boyfriend.
That is, and in fact, there's going to change with Omni, because the kids, the student cards are going to now be, they're not going to have Metro cards, they're going to have Omni. So there are some changes there. They claim there'll be more options for what they can do.
And they don't take the fares either, so like they don't,
They do.
on the air train?
Oh, on air train.
Yeah, so I'm just, yeah,
Yeah, no, that's another glitch. And usually those two things go together.
right,
You miss one, you kind of.
right.
They're saying on average, the seat in the air taxi is $36 to $48.
What?
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. I pay like two something.
It's
to get to
right.
the airport.
But they don't exist right now.
Takes less time to get there too. so-
Yeah.
We're all flying to the airport, Betty.
Really?
Well, I have no question, I would too, but I'm just surprised they have their pricing for a structure that.
That's,
Until about 20.
that's about, what, Brandon, what did you say that the price is?
$36 to $48.
That's about half, well,
That's what they're-
because the taxi just went up.
Well, the taxi from
That's,
here
that
to the
sounds too
airport.
good to be true.
For the
but-
Archer, or is that for the Joby?
Is it for?
Wait till the first accident.
Okay.
Yeah.
When the jet, when that accident.
Oh, sorry, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's like $295 and then there's some.
So this is. There we go. Sorry, folks.
It's got a one decimal point.
It's like, what?
Yeah,
Hey,
Still cheap
everybody,
in Indiana, from my way.
yeah. And I mean, it's better than taking a train, so.
if they can check my bags,
Tell you. Train to 125th on the M60.
I tell everybody it's vacation, because we're really getting into those topics. What do I do with my bags? Yeah, I saw this in Innovative Lab. Article about ridiculous signs, and it's in New York, so they like. But yes, there is such a thing as too much information. People keep asking for a lot more signs, you all want to.
Oh, that's going to the Tappan Zee Bridge somewhere around there, right? Somewhere in that area?
You mean the Mario Cuomo Bridge?
my daddy's.
Okay.
So, yeah, there is such as too much. And next, I think we're at the end. Yeah, see you in September. Next month, you're off. Thanks. Isn't that great?
Is the
Job. So if you want to make a song.
Yeah, is that the color?
It's either green or
Oh,
green.
you'll notice there-
There's no.
We only have one option, and it's just one green,
Have the car.
which is different